So basically what we've got on the table is a load of IT kit, and essentially this is how a business would run. Now before you can even set up an IT company or even an accountant or any other type of business, you're going to need, first of all, you're going to need broadband because everyone needs the internet, and you're going to need a network to run it on. So before we even start, the first thing you're going to have is a router, and that router is your broadband router, or you used to call it a modem, and that is what we've got there. Now that modem needs to be placed into in the wall, and this becomes your broadband connector into the wall. Would anyone like to be broadband for me? There we are. So, right, so there we are. That's broadband working. Okay, now we need to add our network to the system. Now, in order to connect everything together, you need a switch. And this is what we call a switch. This is a standard 16-port switch. And what we have here is we have nice coloured cables all bound up nice and neatly, not like the picture I passed around last week that we don't do. But this is what we have. So I tend to use different colour cables for different purposes, so I know where they go. So if, for example, I said that the white cables are going to be our PCs, and all of these cables here will eventually make their way to the back of your PCs in the office through a hole in the wall, and that's pretty much where they go. And the yellow cables I might use for printers, or this would be first floor and second floor. Okay, so we know where they go. Pop that onto there. Okay, now before you can store your files, you need to have a server. So before we bring the whole business online, I'm going to come around here and connect my router into my switch, and now, as if by magic, we now have broadband around the entire office. So every port in the wall now has broadband, but it doesn't have a server, because at the moment we're not connected to anything. It's just fed the walls, and that's all we've got. How many people here have a server in their business? Okay, there's a few people putting their hands up. Okay, how many people use a server every day? Now, interesting that only those that have a server in their office have put their hand up, because every single person in this room uses a server every day, and that's how do you get your emails? Okay, how do you surf the web? Okay, it might not be your server, but it is somebody's server, and that server is out there somewhere hiding from you where you connect to it, and that's how the whole world pieces together. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect our server to our network, and we plug just the same way as we do with any other system, straight into there and into our switch like that. So there we go. Now our server is connected to the network and everything works. Brilliant. Okay, so on here I would store files that you would use every day. For example, businesses like, for example, Helen's business would have important documents, and they would store these on a server, which is this device we've got sitting on the floor here. Now before we start, where are we? Okay, we have a switch. Okay, and now somebody's going to be a printer later. Yeah. Do you know what? That takes the wind out your sails, doesn't it? Because you know who's going to be the printer in the room, don't you? Yeah. Put it on in a minute. Right. No true company. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. We obviously need things like electric. Where's Terry? Where are you hiding, Terry? Right. I need you here, Terry. Okay. You've got to have an electric. Right. Now. Electric. Yeah. Now, Terry, like all exactly.
Terry got charged him £50.
Yeah. Now, the reason why Terry's got two plugs in his hand is because the difference between a server and a normal workstation that you have in your office is most workstations will only ever have one power supply in them. This particular unit has two power supplies in it. It's a server. It has to be a server, and it will come out. There we are. And there's one power supply there, which goes in there, and the second power supply, when it comes out, that wants to come out, that is there, like so. Okay. Now the reason why that is because if for any reason one power supply should blow, the second power supply just kicks in and this thing keeps running. So fantastic. Now also, if we open this up, this is inside the bonnet of the box. This is where all of the differences happen. Now most servers, most PCs that you have will probably have between 2 and 6 gig of RAM memory in them. This server has 84 in here and is capable of running 384, so that tells you the kind of power that a server would generate, and that's what it does. Each of the servers are easy to clean. We've got fans like so that cool down the heat sinks, and they just hot swap, and I can pull them out. I could even pull these out when they're actually running, so I can just pull them out, blow them through with an air gun, put them back in the hole, and let everything go back to normal. And that's pretty much the difference in the back end of a server. We've also got hard drives which are slightly different. With these I can actually pull the hard drives out of the machines while they're running. And this is what it does. Now I've actually got, in this particular server, 6 hard drives in here. The first 2 at the front are my operating system, and that basically means Windows Server will run on one drive, and it is mirrored in what they call a RAID format onto the second. So if the first drive crashes, the second drive keeps it running. All I need to do is put in a new drive into that hole, shut it up, and the machine will then rebuild the first drive just as it was. I have 2 drives which are mirrored again in the middle, which is my client's data. So again, if my first client drive crashes, the second is already captured in there. And then the last pair of drives is our own data, and the same thing, that's mirrored as well. So you've got a huge contingency there. Now I must bear in mind that this server that we've got sitting here is actually our second server. It's not our first. The reason why I've got it on the table today is because I have 2 of these, exactly the same, and that one is currently running my business now, or hope, doing its job back in the office there. So, very quickly, printer. Let's pop your hat on there for me. Okay, and just grab hold of the yellow leads for me. They're not live, honestly, they're not live. So, okay, there we go. Nikki, if you can just grab hold of the white wires for me. Okay, Nikki's a PC, so what Nikki will do when she prints, she sends her request all the way through here, through that, touches and out comes the print. All I do is oversee what's going on and make sure everything's running, and that's what we call uptime. So thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Ray, please?
Sorry.
Yeah, Ray, can you explain to us the importance of the fans and keeping it clean inside?
Yes. I mean, this, I don't know, if anyone wants to have a look later, you can. You can eat the dinner off this. You know, it's completely dust free, and the reason why I do that is because without kind of going into too much detail, dust is human skin, you see, and if we cover any of these components with dust, we actually make the components here insulated. So it's like putting a boiler bag on top of a boiler, which, you know, and that keeps it warm. Now it keeps it at a higher temperature than it was designed to do so. It stops airflow from coming through, and that means it keeps it warm. We don't want to keep this warm, we want to keep it cold. If it runs hot, then we can have components that fail, and that's basically why we have to dedust them.
Yeah, I know, because I've had one burst into flames.
Oh really? Yeah. So yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Everything seems to be duplicated. You've got 2 power supplies and everything's backed up.
Yes.
But presumably the end user doesn't know that they're using 2 or 3 duplications. How do you know when something's stopped working, if you lost a power supply, for example?
Basically, this thing bleeps and tells me that something's gone wrong, and tells me exactly what's gone wrong. This unit here has a piece of software on here which tells me all of the working items. If anything fails, within 15 minutes of it failing, I've been notified that it's failed. So.
Sorry, it's not so much a question, but just to thank Ray, because Ray does our IT now, and he's the system that was in place before was really inefficient, and you have completely changed it to to the extent I don't want to refer you to other solicitors now because I won't. So it was just and to thank you for putting up with my phone calls because I can't find control not delete. But yeah, no, it was just to really say Ray's fantastic at what he does, and he is at the end of the phone straight away into your computer while you're on it fixing it. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Also, I testify for Ray. Being a barbershop, a bit of a difference. We carry a database. As you know, we've got a lot of clients data, 2,000 plus to 8,000 plus. Ray comes in, he backs up my data and he sets it off site as well. Something you should have mentioned actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's on an iCloud. All my information is backed and stored, and because I carry data, I have to apply to law. They make sure I keep within that law. So law's important with data backup as well. That's what Ray does as well. So you don't mention, you actually look on the law side. Yeah, so we get heavily involved as well there, which is great.
That's it. I mean, it's worth mentioning actually. I mean, this is our duplicate server. We have one exactly the same as this. Everything that is stored on all those 6 drives, it also goes up into the cloud as well. So if I get hit by a bomb, I can already put it down. No, there's nobody bomb manufacturers here.
Any other questions, guys?
Bradley.
How easy would it be for you? Say you got a business contact you and said, "We've had a server running for 3 years now. Absolute cowboy installed it." How easy would it be for you to go in, overhaul, and?
Wow, a difficult one. It depends on how it's been set. I mean, I think if a server hasn't been set up correctly in the first place, it is quite a difficult task sometimes to put that right. It is very, very easy, however, to back up the data, rebuild it, and set it up correctly. So that's what I would often recommend. So.
Any other questions, guys?
Can you give me an indication of cost?
Right, this particular server, if we bought it as a brand new unit, and to set this up, this server would normally cost between, say, £3,000 and £5,000 to put in place. Now, joking aside, you can buy these second-hand on the market now because they come out of data centres, and you pay £240 for one, and the drives then rise the cost to about £700–800. So it's not an expensive solution to put in place, not really. So.
Everybody good? Yeah. Fantastic, 10 minutes, well done.